Welcome. In this video, we are going to see all the nodes present in TerraForge3D of the node editor. So you can see I've sorted out all the nodes according to like logically, and we're going to see through them one by one, right? So first we have got the output node. So this is like you plug in all your nodes, and you plug in you make all your nodes network, and you plug it in with this, and this is the final output of the terrain. So if I just show, I just turn it to node based mode, you can see I can just raise the value, so it will raise the terrain itself, and that's by default, right? Now if I just go to our next type of nodes, that is the value nodes, or these are nodes that are responsible for like they give you the important, they give you the parameters that are passed to the node editor for generating the terrain, right? So for example, the texture coordinates node is the texture coordinate of the vertex. So let me just tell how the terrain is generated. So for there are terrain is made up of various like a large number of vertices. If you turn on wireframe mode, you can see that like for each of these vertices, like all this corner, like there are triangles, and all the three vertices of the triangle. For each of these vertices, we run this node editor setup, and so for each we have these parameters with which we can which we are provided with to generate the terrain, right? So first we have got the texture coordinates node. So if I just plug this in with this, you can see it's just generating a plane, and that's exactly what we can expect of the texture coordinates. Now I can just also plug this in with the y texture coordinate, and it's generating the plane in the other direction, right? This is exactly what we want. Now the next thing we have got is the mesh coordinates. This is the kind of most important value node, because this is what we are going to use for most of our generating purposes, because this is going to act as the base seed or value with which we will generate our terrain, both for noise as well as for all other functions that we are going to see in some time. Next, we've got our mesh coordinates maximum values and minimum values. So these are the maximum and minimum values, by which I mean like the minimum value will always be 0, 0, 0, and the maximum value depends on the resolution of mesh. So for example, if it is 256, it should be 256, 256 and 0, because on the z-axis it is 0, 0, because it's a plane. Now one thing, that the x and y axes are on the plane and the z-axis is perpendicular to it in this application, right? Now these are the value nodes, right? Let's move on to the next set of nodes, that are those are the mathematical nodes. So you can see each category of node has its own color. So these are the value nodes, and these are the mathematical nodes. So the main purpose of this node is just as helpers for you, like to combine the effect of two separate nodes or anything that you want. These are mathematical functions you can use. For example, let me just show the sine value. If I just perform a sine operation, now I need to give some input to it. So if I just give a texture coordinate input to it, and you can see it's giving me a sine wave with the texture coordinates as the input, right? But if I just want something more interesting, I can say put this here. You can see that the values of these, like, this is a sine wave of very high frequency if you see carefully. So in order to fix it, like to see a proper sine wave, what we can do is we can just take a multiply node, plug it through this, and in case of the factor, we just say a low value like 0.1, and here we go, we have got a sine wave. Now, one problem we might notice is that the weird artifacts. Now the thing is, the lighting may be affected if we change some nodes. There is a very simple fix. You can see mesh scale up here. Just release the scale, change the scale once, and things will just fix itself automatically, right? And here we can see the sine wave. Now if you just don't want to use this multiply node out here as an extra node, with you can also see there is something called a sign kx. So this is the k is the second input out here. So for example, if I can just increase this value and the effect will be same. So what it exactly does is this is the k, it multiplies this with this and then finds the sign of that, because this is just a shortcut to save you from adding one more multiply node, right? So these are the your mathematical nodes. Next we've got a dummy node. Now this is not for any real purpose, this is just for debugging and checking whether your node or your nodes are working or is there any error. So this should not be used anywhere. The next kind of nodes and the most important kind of nodes we've got is the noise nodes, right? This is the core of the application. These are what we will use to generate procedural noise. So there are several noise nodes. Let me just unplug the output node and bring it out here. There are several noise nodes out here. Let me just start with let's start with Berlin. So let's see the parameters once. Let me just move this out. You can delete the node by clicking on it and pressing delete. It will delete. And if you want to duplicate a node, for example, I've got this, I want to duplicate it, so I just select it and then press Shift D, duplicate, and here we've got a duplicated node, right? So let's move on to the Berlin node. For example, again we can see the lighting issue over here. We just change the scale, and that's gone. So the Berlin node is like we just connect it, and we can see noise being generated out here. And this let me have a mesh of a bigger scale, say 20, in order so you can see the effect more prominently. Increase the lighting, right? You can see the if you feel that the mesh is too faint, you just increase the strength, and you can see the effects increased. Right now, this is not very realistic, so if you want more realistic terrain, you can tweak the values. For example, let me change the fractal type, and you can see I've got a different fractal, and let me just change the number of octaves to 6, and you can see realism, kind of realism. And if we just say duplicate this node one more time, and we have an add node out here, right? Let me just add this out here with this, and again add this out here. So if you see what I'm exactly trying to do is, first this Berlin node is going to be acting as the base, or the base shape of the terrain. So if I just remove this Berlin, so you can see that it's just the base shape of the terrain, and let me just increase the strength of it. Right, you can see it's just the base shape of the terrain. Now I'm adding a more detailed node to this, just acting as a layer of detail on top of this base shape. Now this is looking way more realistic than if I would just do either one of them, right? Now you can always change the factors and tweak them until you get something more satisfying. And we've got all the other types of noises, that is the cellular noise, the value noise, the open simplex 2 noise, open simplex 2fs noise, and the value cubic noise. I'm not going to demonstrate all of these, you can try them out as you wish, but each of them will UI wise is quite similar. You've got all these parameters which you need to tweak in order to get your desired result. Now something different out here is your random number node and your time-based seed node, right? So if you want to generate the seed automatically, if you want like for example, you can see the seed value over here. It is used to set the seed of a noise generation algorithm. So if I change the seed, the thing completely changes, but the effects remain similar. So in case you just want automatic seed generation, you can just plug it in with this, and you see, right, you can just hit regenerate seed. It generates the seed based on the given time of the operating system from the operating system. So if every time you hit regenerate seed, it will regenerate the seed. You can see it's regenerating the seed every time. I can also change this manually to something I wish, right? And similar thing is with the random number node. You place a seed out here and place a maximum value and minimum value, the constraints of the random node, and you get the random number, right? So this is quite all with the noise nodes. Now let's go to something special. Now you can see these nodes are one of one type. Now let's go to something special. Now these nodes out here on this side are a bit of special kinds of nodes. So let's see them one by one. We just unplug this random node, and I'm gonna take these nodes, as I'm gonna need them in order to show some of the other nodes that are coming. First one of the special nodes is the Pixelate node. So Pixelate node is something that you need to plug in. Suppose I've got a terrain now, like I have got this realistic terrain. Now I want something like that is more blocky or chunky. That is, it kind of looks like Minecraft. So if you want that kind of a look, you can just take a Pixelate node, like put the input in, and here you go. You've got a pixelated or Minecrafty look. Now this has also got a parameter, that is the size of individual pixels. Now you can decrease this in order to get more number of pixels or more number of individual blocks, or you can increase this value to get less number of blocks and lower resolution. And this is kind of a filter that you can apply to your node editor setup just before output node in order to get something pixelated. Now you can also combine this kind of thing and a normal node. For example, if I just take this and if I just say for multiply node out here, from here take the multiply node here, right? I have taken the multiply node here. I can just unplug this and plug this in with the through the multiply node, and if I just right now you can see the pixels are now kind of with the noise. So let me just get high resolution. Now in case while changing the pixelated node, you can find that again the lighting is gone. Again, just resize the mesh, everything will be back again, right? Now let me just increase the resolution a bit, right? You can see you can get different kind of effects with this, and I can also fix this to high resolution. You can see I'm getting overall noise on top of that, so this might look cool in some cases, and it depends on you how you use it. The next node we have got is our visualizer node. Now this is more of a debug sort of a node, and I wouldn't recommend anyone using this in any practical situations. For example, if I just want to see now something that I want to warn about, this node is like for debugging purposes only. Do not use it in case, do not save your project with this in place. There might be problems with it, right? So I've got a Pixelate node and I plug it into the visualizer. I want to visualize exactly what kind of output is it giving. So I can just click update. Sorry, you need to connect to the output node in order to update it. Right there, and click update. Now you can see there are bugs with this, but this is just for debugging purposes. Now right click, I can see this is the exact output given to me by the by the Pixelate node, right? And now the Pixelate node is giving me exactly this thing. So this is kind of useful for this kind of visualization. So I'm deleting it for now because it's taking up a lot of space. Next kind of node we have got is the custom math function node. Now this is quite an advanced node, so let me just take it out in a separately and show you. So this can be used. Okay, let's just unit array be better. Right now, this is essentially used to get like mathematical functions onto your terrain. For example, that might be useful. So you can also add some customized terrain generation algorithm. So, for example, I've got a. Let me just try. Now, there are three input variables to the expression x and y and z that are the coordinates of the E14 bar, but but each coordinate has been normalized to 0 to 1 space, so you need to calculate accordingly. For example, if I just put x square and plug it into the output, now this is, you can see nothing is happening because I have to hit compile in order to work, for it to work. Now you can see I'm getting a sine x square function, and that's a parabola right here. Now what if I want a paraboloid? Add y square and compile, right? And here I've got a paraboloid, right? Now if I just do something like 1 minus this, and you can see a reverse paraboloid. Now this is a factor that you can multiply with this in order to change, like this is the multiplied with the output again, like saves you the trouble of adding a multiply node later with it. Now this is useful, handy in case of you're working with larger terrains. For example, when I've scaled it up, you can see the effect is negligible, so I can just increase the multiplication value. You can see now the effect is being seen, right? So that's it about the custom math function node. And also you can increase the size of the math input by increasing this. Yeah. The next thing I want to show you is the blend mode, right? Now this is kind of used for blending in two different nodes together, like kind of the mixed node and blender. For example, let me just show this. Just delete the Pixelate node because I don't need it now. For example, let's say if I plug this in, and let's just increase the strength a bit, right? And increase the lighting. Okay. Now you can see that I've got a simple plain terrain out here now, and I've also got this. I've got one kind of terrain, and if I just remove this and add this, I've got a different kind of terrain out here. There's more detailed. Now what if I want to blend these and get something in between? So that can be done by the help of this node, right? So let's just use it. So for value A, I'm going to go with value A. For value B, I'm going to go with value from this node. And factor, we are not going to attach it, but we're just going to use the slider out here. And I'm going to show you how can you use the factors in order to get more customized results. So you can see now, if I just turn this side, it is just plain node, this is the output from this function, this node setup, this node network. And if I just change this to 1, it is the output from exactly this node setup. Now if I just do something like, I can just tweak the value to get something in the middle that is from both, right? So this is all about the blend node. Now the next node I'm going to talk about is the curve editor node. Now this is very handy tool for a lot of purposes, because for example, say what if I want to blend in a way that at this side it will be, at one side it will be more from this node, at one side it will be more from this node, and at other side it will be more from this node, right? So how can I do that? The factor is uniform for all values, so you can just plug in the factor from here to the curve editor, and at once you can see that now by default it is in x-axis. I can change the axis too, and you can see that this side is more from this node and this side is more from this node. I can change the values and get whatever result I desire. Right? I can change the values. Just set it something like. I can also increase the maximum number of points that are allowed. Right. I can see the middle portion is more from this node and the end portions are more from this node. Right. So this can be handy in these cases. The next node I'm going to talk about is the hill node, right? So let me delete all this. I do not need this, and I do not need the blend node too. Alright, now I add node, so let me duplicate it and plug this in. Alright, and here I have got my hill node set up. Now what I need to do is, in order to this is used to make hills, so let's just make a hill on there. Let me make a hill on the center, so let me just increase the height out here. You can see there is a hill being made. The radius of the hill is too much. You can see the entire setup is being elevated. So for that I can reduce the radius and do something like this. This looks good enough. Now you can see the rest of the terrain has just sunk. Now don't worry, you can easily fix it. You can see the plane factor out here. You can just increase the value, and you can see the thing is coming back up and leaving sort of a valley out here. Now you can just keep increasing the plane factor to make it just plain. Now you can also change the position of the hill. Let's just increase the height a bit and increase the radius a bit. Right, and I have got full control over the hill's position. If I just want hill there, I can place it here. If I want the hill there, I can place it there. Let me bring the hill to this side. Right, you can see you can position the hill anywhere. Now I can have multiple hill nodes out here. So let's just have one more. I need to keep adding them. Adding them out here. So if I just keep adding them, and let's say let me just copy the values out here. So let's say just like 17, it's 1.730, 11.870, and you can see I've got another hill at the center. Let's just bring down the height a bit. That looks bad. Now something interesting that I can show is, if you want to make a pool rather than a hill, just invert this value. So instead of height as 14, make it minus 14. You can see you have got a pool that you can control completely. So let's just raise the light a bit again, and you can control the pool's height as you wish. Right, make the pool anywhere you wish. Right, this is completely in your hands. Now that is all about the hill node. Now the next node I'm going to talk about is the texture node. Now this is another node that is going to be used a lot in case you want to load a height map. So you just need to click this white box, white texture, or change texture button will do the same thing. And this file chooser opens. You just select the texture you want to select, and it's loaded. Right, and you can just plug it in, and you can see the texture is out here, but it is again in 0-1 range. So in order to get something that's kind of prominent, you need to multiply it with some factor. So just go to multiply node, or something that I forgot to mention. In case you want to create a node, you just press Shift A and this menu will pop up, or you can also press the middle mouse button and this menu will pop up, or you can also click Add Node and this menu will pop up. So we have the multiply node. You can see I've got a multiply node out here, and let me just add a factor to it. Right. You can see the texture has been applied as a height map. Now there are artifacts in the texture itself. So you can see there are artifacts at the end of the mesh. But you can see the mesh main center at the center of the mesh. It's exactly as a texture, right? So that's it about all the nodes. Now one bonus point that I want to share is, in case you're interested how the hill node works internally, so here is a brief explanation. So you can see that, let me just show a hill on its own. So let's just go here and let me just duplicate it. If I just connect it, I want the unit plane, let's say 1, size 1, okay. Let me just zoom in to it. Right. Now you can see, let's just increase the lighting, it's too low data. Right. I can see it's just a simple hill. Now this shape is kind of like a paraboloid. We achieved the custom math function node, but you can see that paraboloid had these edges pointing downwards rather than kind of this cool hillish way. So in order to achieve it, I had to just modify the equation to get something different. So here's a simpler version of that. So here you can see the equation in 2 dimensions, and this same equation is being applied in 3 dimensions out here. So in this equation you can see we are just calculating the parabola with this function, and we're multiplying with the we are actually exponentially decreasing. From here we are multiplying with the e to the power x and x minus a, just to make for the offset. For example, if I can just shift the entire thing, and here the same thing can be done with what is a position out here, and the height out there is this height. We can control the height, and the plane factor is, and the radius is r. We can change the radius. And in case you see, if I reduce the radius too much, you can see the things are dropping down. Here too the same thing will happen. If I just reduce the radius, so things are dropping down. So in order to prevent that, you can just increase the plane factor, and you can see the plane factor. With increasing the plane factor, things are coming up and you're getting a valley at the end of the hill. So same thing will happen with this function too. If we just increase the plane factor, you can see, let me just increase the limit, so 50. If I just increase the plane factor, you can see the thing is coming up. Now I need to increase a lot more because right, you can see the value has come up, and there is a plane. If you want the valley kind of thing, increase it a bit, you can see you get the valleys. You can increase the radius to get more different effects. And that's it about this node and how this works. And one more thing is the texture nodes. All the textures that you load once you save your node editor, or once you save your file from here, your textures are cached and stored inside the project folder. So you don't need to, like, even if you delete the texture, for example, if I just save this and if I just delete that original texture file, still when you load the file next time, the texture will be loaded from where it is already cached. So if you want to see the cached texture, you can go to the file folder of your TerraForge, go to the data folder, and if you see, you can go to cache and project data. You can see the project and the project IDs. Now I have no idea of knowing the project ID I'm currently in, but let me guess right here, and yeah, this one. And you can see the project data is being stored, the database for the project is being stored, and we have got the textures that are cached as files out here. Great. I have textures that are cached as files out here. All these can be cached and automatically will be loaded when you load the texture when you load the project next time. Now this is a reason that if you just save this and get the TRR3D file, and you cannot actually share that file and expect it to open up the textures and resources in a different computer. For that you need to go to file and pack project, and it will give a TerraPack 3D, and that is what you need to share in order to open to other project.